I was really upset, and I needed some comfort. I wasn't living with my parents at the time, and I think my dad had already passed away by this stage. No, he hadn't yet. Um, and so my first place to go was to the Bible.
Mm.
And I was feeling terrible. I was feeling awful inside. I felt like absolute garbage. So I picked up my Bible and just started reading. I can't remember the verse. I can't remember what I was reading. That's terrible. I apologize.
No, no.
But this was 20. This is like 25 years ago,
Yeah.
and I started reading, and something just went, and I felt amazing. And I jumped up from the couch, from the chair, put the Bible on the. Oh, that thing is alive! I can't believe this. I feel completely different.
All right. Welcome back, friends, to another awesome, another amazing edition of Atheists Having Cocktails with Christians. I am super fortunate to be sitting down with the drummer for one of my favorite Christian grindcore death metal bands of all time, Jayson Sherlock from Mortification. He also is in another amazing band I had forgot about, Paranesium, Horde, and then he sent me his new band. I don't know if they're new or how old they are, but Revol. So when I talk about the in my show, like the heavy grindcore death metal stuff that I was attracted to as a Christian and beyond, this they play the style of music that I get down to. No,
Yeah,
no offense to Deliverance and all the other bands are great, but Mortification for me, when I first heard them, they were one of the first like legitimate sounding death metal bands out there, and I'm still a big fan to this day. So, man, greetings from America. I know you're back home in Australia, and it's early in the morning for you. So, thank you for doing this, man.
oh, all good, man. All good.
Definitely. So, tell me what you've been up to since Mortification. What other bands? What are you doing? Do you?
Well, 35 years ago,
Yeah.
25 years of stuff to catch up on. Well, so I guess I played the last show with Mortification in '93, which would have been Live Planetarium, I suppose. Um,
Okay.
and which was the live album that we did after Post Momentary. After that, no, wait a minute. I'm confused now. I think they were both recorded in the same year, 1993. Yeah. Yeah. So, Live Planetarium was recorded at the end of 1993.
Mhm.
And I guess Post Momentary was maybe at the start. I can't even remember. Um,
Post was and then after that one came the live one. Because after that was Blood
yeah.
World. After that one, I think.
Yeah. So I didn't do that one. They have definitely upgraded in terms of drumming because Phil Gibson ran rings around me in terms of double kick and all that sort of stuff. So he's a beast. But yeah, man. So, gosh, where do I start? I mean, 1993 is a lot to cover, eh?
All right,
I
well,
mean,
let's go back to how you joined Mortification, how you met Steve and Michael,
yeah,
and the combination of that, because we all know the story of Steve doing Light Force, and then which was a different style, and then he found more grindcore and death metal and had a calling to go that route. So, were
yeah,
you always a Christian? Are you still a Christian to this day?
absolutely, 100%.
Okay,
Even more so, even
okay,
more so,
great.
because the Lord's just had like 35 more years to show himself to me, and he has, and it just continually, daily does my head in. He's just absolutely unbelievable. Anyway,
But
but we'll get to that.
yeah, were you? I mean, obviously, I mean, like Mortification, man, that sound changed Christian music. I mean, it really did. And then the predecessors, Vengeance, all those guys, whatnot. But like when I first heard the self-titled, it was like, especially as a young Christian, then that was I wanted more of that style, and you guys were the only
Yeah,
one really pulling off that style legitimately, other than being more screamy or a little bit more guitar solo driven and whatnot. But like the first two records for me are just perfection. So were you always a Christian when you joined Mortification, or did you join and then became a Christian, or what?
Well, I grew up Catholic, as is probably a pretty normal story that you guys keep hearing throughout all your podcasts. A lot of the guys that you interview do end up begin being raised Catholic. So I grew up Catholic. I went to mass every Sunday kind of thing, and because I went to a Catholic school, elementary school, I would go to mass on a Friday as well during class time. But yes, I grew up a Catholic, but it never really, the Catholicism never connected to my heart. It just always was just all head knowledge, kind of thing. We all with all the rituals and bits and pieces that the Catholics do. The beliefs of the Catholic faith. So nothing really connected into my heart until one day my mum came home from work one day, and she was feeling really, really sad because a really good friend of her had passed away. Mm-hmm. And she was due to have her hair. She was going to the hair salon that night. Anyway, she went to the hair salon, and her hairdresser was a born-again Christian. And my mum was really distressed and told her the story and mentioned about her friend dying. And the lady said, "Would you like us to pray with you? Would you like us to pray for you?" And she was like, "That'd be amazing." So they prayed, and my mum basically gave her heart to Jesus on the spot, which was pretty amazing because mum was pretty headstrong and had her own ideas and was pretty set in her ways, but somehow the Lord just wanted her, for himself. So she came home completely transformed. And my parents had divorced by this time. So I was 14 when they divorced, but I was 17 at this stage. Sort of coming towards the end of my schooling, my high schooling. Mm. And so she came home and she shared what had happened and her experience in getting saved and all the rest of it. And I could just tell straight away, man, Mum, there's something different about you. You look different. What's going on? This is weird. What's going on? And she shared me the story, and I'm like, that's absolutely amazing. And I just this little tiny flicker just ignited, and I'm like, this is cool. This is cool. This is cool. What's going on? This is freaky. So I went to bed that night and sort of didn't really think too much else about it, although I knew there was something still there. And a few nights later, I've just felt this compulsion, just this real longing to connect with God personally. And in the quietness of my own bedroom, after what Mum was telling me about how to accept Jesus into your heart and all that sort of stuff, I did exactly that, and I've never been able to let go of him since. And that was when I was 17. So what's that? I'm 55 now. So what's that? 38 years ago. Wow. So it's crazy. I hope I did the maths right there. Yeah. I'm very, very bad at maths. I used to draw pictures of Eddie, Iron Maiden's Eddie in math class. So, nice. And show the teacher. And I would show the teacher and say, "This is my maths work." Nice. So that's where the art sort of started. So so that's how I became a Christian. Yeah. And you got involved in Bible studies and all that sort of stuff up to past there. I'd always been into heavy metal. My first concert when I was 10 was Kiss. Nice. And at a big arena out here in Melbourne. My mum and my sister, my mum bought me and my sister tickets, so the three of us went. Nice. My mum was not a conservative woman at all. She was really into music and into all that sort of stuff. So she was like, she wanted to come with us. She bought us tickets. She stood on the seats with us as we were rocking out. And it was the most amazing show that I'd ever seen, Kiss in 1980. That's awesome. So that's how sort of the musical kind of journey started. And then, as I was saying, once I became a Christian, I went to Bible studies and stuff. And I hooked up with a family, just kind of the north of Melbourne, and they had some dudes in that family who were, you know, heavy metal guys and Christians, and they ran a Bible study there just within their sort of family unit kind of thing, and just some friends from their local church. So I started going to that. And then through that Bible study, I met a guy called Cameron Hall, who recorded the Break the Curse demo, which then became an album after the demo was recorded. And then he introduced me to Steve Rowe. And I knew that the transition between Life Force and Mortification was happening at this point. And he needed basically a new lineup kind of thing, because they were kind of finishing Light Force and merging into Mortification, even though the name change didn't happen until, you know, a little bit after that. So we were still doing Light Force under the three of us. That was myself, Steve, and Cameron, who I'd met at this Bible study. And we just started rehearsing at Cameron's place, which is only like literally 5 minutes away from where I live now.
Oh, nice.
And so I think I met Cameron at his place one day, and we just hung out, and he said, "Oh, I'll call Steve Rowe." And, oh, cool, okay. So I chatted with Steve, and just everything clicked, and we just started jamming together and started writing, and that's kind of how it all started, really. Yeah.
Now, is Steve your age, or is he older or younger than you?
A little bit older. So I've just turned 55, and he'd probably be pushing 60 by now. I think he was about 4 or 5 years older, maybe. So he might be 60 maybe next year, I think. So yeah.
Now, what was the extreme metal scene like in Australia? Because I mean, did you guys get a lot of, like, you know, bands touring over there? Like, you know, distribution was good. Like, what made you guys especially pick extreme metal? Because I mean, like I said, you know, Vengeance was great, Deliverance, Tourniquet, all these bands, they're great extreme, but you guys were the extreme of the extreme in the Christian realm. Especially, nobody sounded like you, nobody looked like you. Your artwork, your videos, I mean, you guys had a very legit secular look, even though you were a Christian band, you know?
Yeah.
So what was the heavy bands that you got into that made you guys like lean towards that style of music?
Yeah. Well, all of us were, you know, very open to listening to all kinds of music, whether it was Christian or secular. It kind of never really made too much of a difference, you know. So I can speak for myself. You know, I went from Kiss to Maiden to Metallica, and then it just kept getting heavier and faster. So then after Metallica, you'd go Sodom from Germany, Creator from Germany, early Sepultura, not really early, but sort of, you know, kind of Beneath the Remains, Arise kind of era Sepultura. Beneath the Remains is where they really sort of hit their stride. I reckon it's probably one of my favorite thrash metal albums of all time. It's just unbelievable. And then Slayer, obviously, as well. And then after that, we just sort of it was just a natural progression for me to, you know, check out other bands. Like I tried not to pay too much attention to bands like Morbid Angel and Deicide and stuff, just because it was too far the wrong way. So I was really glad that, you know, after Deicide released, you know, albums like the self-titled and Legion and stuff, that, you know, we had bands like Malevolent Creation who sounded very similar to Deicide, but just didn't have that, you know, heavy kind of satanic edge, which I didn't really, didn't give two shits about back then.
Bolt Thrower.
What's that?
Yeah, like you know, Napalm Death and Carcass and Bolt Thrower, Obituary. You know what I mean? There's so many good bands from the '90s. Cannibal Corpse. You know.
Yeah, all that stuff, and all this. Don't forget the Swedish stuff too, like Entombed and Dismember and Grave and Tiamat and Nihilist. Entombed were Nihilist before Entombed, but and who else was there? Like heaps of
Suffocation, I think.
Well, Suffo, obviously Suffo's from New York, but Suffo.
I thought they were European. No.
Suffocation.
Yeah, I thought they were European. I thought they were from Sweden.
No, man. No, Suffocation. They're from Long Island, New York.
Oh, I did not know that.
New York, yeah. And of course, Cannibal Corpse originated in Buffalo, and then they went to Florida. But yeah, so no man, Suffocation are well and truly US. So yeah, and then you know just kept going from there. So we kind of broke it up into, you know, it was either regions or labels, you know. So you know you had Earache, and Earache, you know, had the Morbid Angel, they had, you know, Bolt Thrower, Carcass, Napalm, you know, Cathedral. What else did they have? They had Terrorizer, and that's another thing I liked about you know. So I kind of had, you know, I had the Deicide box ticked with Malevolent, and I had the Morbid box ticked with Terrorizer, because obviously Pete and Dave Vincent were in Terrorizer with Oscar Garcia and Jesse Pintado from Napalm. So that sort of ticked the box for me in terms of, you know, drumming, you know, appeal, I guess, you know, because I got to, you know, enjoy Pete Sandoval without any of the satanic shit that was sort of kicking around. So yeah, that was huge for me. And then obviously, you know, you got your other ones, like all the Swedish ones as well. A few of those bands were on Earache as well, and then a few of those were on Century Media too.
Roadrunner at the time,
and then the Roadrunner side, yeah. So yeah, all the Florida bands and the, you know, Suffo and all that sort of stuff, and Gorguts as well from Canada. Love those first two Gorguts albums, just kill me every time. Once Dead, Considered Dead, is probably one of the best death metal albums of all time, and of course Erosion of Sanity. Yeah.
You know, again, you know,
so I just kept getting into the heavier stuff. Yeah, it was just fun. It was just more appealing and more challenging musically, and I just dug it. You know.
Yeah. Well, that was the one thing that, you know, really hit me about when I first saw, you know, Mortification. You know, like just the imagery was so much what I was used to listening to. Because by the time I was listening to Mortification, I was already, I was like 13, 14. I actually got to see you guys one time. We lived in Ventura, California, which is about an hour north of Hollywood. Hollywood. And you guys, I think it was your first tour to the U.S. I think it was in '92, and you guys played at this little VFW hall down in Los Alamitos, which was about 100 miles from where
wasn't me.
What's that?
Wasn't me. It wasn't me. It would have been probably would have been Johnny Vasquez.
Oh, really? Oh. Well, I did not.
I've never been to the States.
Oh, well, shoot. Well, I got to see a version of Mortification, so I, you know, so well then I never got to see you drum. I didn't know it was Johnny Vasquez, but yeah. So, one time I saw him.
He's a beast too. I mean, I don't understand why he's only ever recorded one album. It's ridiculous. The guy's amazing. So.
Yeah, he's a great drummer.
So yeah, so obviously listening to all of that stuff, you know, it's going to have an influence on the music that you're writing, you know. So that's exactly what happened, you know, just listening to all that stuff and getting into it, and obviously not paying attention too much to the lyrics and that, and just all of that sort of permeated through the music that we're making through Mort, you know.
Mm-hmm. So tell me your journey of how you guys end up getting, you know, signed to Intense Records, being all the way out in Australia. I know Roger had a part in it, he didn't, or I don't know. There's been a lot of stories, so therefore I get to hear from the horse's mouth. So,
you mean like Roger's part in
getting you guys
story?
Getting
yeah. I mean, I'm probably not going to be as knowledgeable about this as much as someone like Steve might be.
Okay.
Because I think he kind of really led the charge in terms of, you know, he managed the band, you know. Me and Michael didn't, you know, manage the band. We just kind of did our part and played the music and wrote the music and stuff. And yeah, but Steve was the real, you know, the brains behind it, you know, booking gigs and getting signed and all that sort of stuff, you know, all the managerial kind of things, because we didn't really have a manager. Steve was the manager. So, I mean, as far as I'm aware, until you get a chance to talk to Steve, which might be tricky.
Is Steve still alive?
What's that?
I heard that Steve Rowe passed. Is he still alive?
No, where are you hearing all this stuff from? No, he's well and truly alive, man.
What's that?
No, it's BS, man. He's alive.
Okay.
He's good. He's pretty. He's getting. You know, he's the cancer and the treatment and all that sort of stuff's taken a toll on him for sure. But no, he's well and truly still kicking, and absolutely miraculous story. Yeah, but
I'd read somewhere that he had passed away about 6 months ago.
So. No, well, not that I'm aware of, because I've seen recent pictures of him, and he's still looking good. So
good. And
if he has passed away, then man, someone tell me. But, yeah. Not that I don't believe you, but yeah, as far as I know, I mean, I'm sure I would have. I'm sure I would have heard.
Something.
Yeah. So where was I going? So getting signed. I guess Steve must have made some kind of connection with the guys from Frontline, and then they all had connections with Roger, or maybe Steve and Roger started chatting first, and then Roger, it might have happened the other way around. Maybe he spoke to the Frontline dudes, and then I think that's probably more maybe what happened. And then we really loved the sound, not only the sound but the music as well, of Tourniquet, Stop the Bleeding album, which was unbelievable. I mean, all the stuff they've done is incredible. But and then we saw produced by Roger Martinez, and we're like, oh, this is a sick production. Let's get Roger to come and produce our self-titled album. So that's basically kind of what happened in a nutshell. We got Roger out, and I can't remember who paid for his tickets or whatever, but he came out and basically, sat with us during the recording and all the rest of it. Hung out with us, and it was good. I got some photos. I'll send you a couple of photos of Roger and I sitting at the drum kit, and he really befriended me and took me under his wing and was really encouraging to me. And he probably, no, he was really great, really nice dude, and really positive and energetic, and he was just a really nice dude, and just he had such an amazing love for the Lord, and that really encouraged us as well. And so he came over and produced the album, and then we were just about to embark on a little tour of Australia as well. So we threw everything in the van, and he came with us on tour as well. So I think the recording was coincided with at the same time the tour was. So he jumped in the van with us, and we drove around Australia, and he basically, I think he must have preached at the shows or something like that.
Yeah.
It was great. It was an awesome time. We had Paramecium in there as well. Obviously before I joined, Andrew, and I think the guitarist name was Paul, and the drummer Steve.
Right.
So they oh no, it was Colin. It was Colin Minard. He was a really good friend of mine. He was the dude that actually ran the original Bible study that Cameron went to, and then got introduced to Steve. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he was in the band at that time, in Paramecium at that time. So yeah, we jumped in the van and just travelled around, and that was it. And then we flew back to Melbourne, and Rog, or maybe he flew back to Melbourne, and then Rog went home, and that was kind of it, really.
Yeah.
And then we got signed and released the album, and away we went.
Nice. When you were saying you went on tour, did that coincide with that video you guys put out, the Grind Planets, that were that low budget film where you guys were just driving around and playing, then it was like videos and whatnot?
I think no, because I think that was more around the Scrolls era.
Okay.
That would have been a year or so later. Yeah. Otherwise, man, if Roger was there, he would have been all over it.
Yeah, that's true.
He would have been front and center. You would have seen Roger in that video for sure. Yeah. But no, I think that was about a year or so later.
Yeah, I remember when that hit the Christian video store and we were able to rent it. I was like, wow, it was still one of my. I think I have it on. I think I have a bootleg of it on DVD somewhere, but I do know I have an original VHS copy of it packed away somewhere too. So it was one of my favorites, It was like Tourniquet came out with the video biopsy, and then they had Hot Metal Summer 4. And then it was really cool when Vengeance got to be on Hard and Heavy, the Grindcore edition, so it was really neat, especially to see bands that reflected what I believed at the time getting major kind of distribution and or exposure. What was like in Australia? Did you have a lot of Christian bands to play with, or were you guys kind of like your style? And I'm not not just Christian bands, but like your style of Christian bands. or were you guys like kind of a lone wolf?
Well, pretty much a lone wolf, and we never really we didn't seek out Christian bands to play with. We just sought out bands to play with, you know, and you know, a lot of the gigs that we played, were pub gigs. So you know, there were never, you know, we might have played the odd, you know, church sort of thing here and there, but it was very, very, very minimal. Most of the shows we played back then were all pub shows, you know. Well, like for example, the tour we did with Rog, it was all pub tours. So we just played, you know, secular venues everywhere, you know, and played with secular bands because that was our jam, you know. That's where we wanted to be. That we didn't want to, you know, do the whole Christian thing and do the church thing and all that, because those people, you know, as you guys have mentioned before in previous podcasts, it's not the sick who need it's not the well, you know, it's the sick who need a doctor. So, but it's not just that. We didn't come from a, you know, oh, we need to hang out with secular people so we can save them. You know, it was nothing like that. It was about making connections, about making friendships. You know, and what happens after that, it's up to the Lord. You know, I never want to, you know, seek out a person just in order to save them. That's just insane. You know, you want to be a friend with someone because you're making a friend with someone, and whatever comes naturally after that, you know, comes naturally after that. You know, so yeah, that's what that was our jam, just making friends with people and hanging out and playing music and just enjoying the heaviness of the music and just yeah, enjoying being young and just getting out and not having jobs and just having a good time, you know.
Yeah. Did you guys get a
Yeah.
good response from the secular bands or the secular audience you were playing with at the time in Australia?
Generally, yeah, definitely. You know, I'm sure there were people, you know, sitting in the corner going, oh, Christians are fucking good, Christian. But generally, yeah, it was really, really good, really positive, and bands wanted to play with us. And, you know, as I say, we made connections, you know. I mean, people I made connections with now, I'm still talking to now, you know. Back then, I'm still talking to them now. So, you know, they're long-lasting connections, you know. So, you know, I was at a gig, you know, probably a year or so ago, and the dudes from, you know, Bremelin are still together, and they're probably the most prominent death metal band from Australia, apart from Psychroptic. But you know, I know those guys and was there and gave them a Revol CD, and I'm pretty sure they dug it, you know. So yeah, it's as simple as that, you know, just getting out, making connections, and making friends, and hoping that it lasts for a long time. You know, that's what it's all about, you know.
Yeah. So then, you know, Scrolls obviously comes out and just kills everything. It's one of the greatest records, you know. So at that time, by the time you guys got to post Momentary Affliction, what made you kind of roll out of the band? Like, what happened with that?
Well, I guess it was just, I think my time was just done. You know, just kind of ran its course, and it was a natural sort of petering out kind of thing. I was getting just, you know, I was doing a lot of fast stuff, and I wanted to sort of, you know, slow it down a little bit. So, and also being in Mort was quite time taxing of time, you know, so I had to put a lot of time into it. So I never had a job or anything during those 3 or 4 years. So I was basically just taking unemployment benefits and all the rest of it, and touring and playing and recording and writing and all that sort of stuff. So, and we'd rehearse every single week, sometimes more than once a week, to keep the chops up and that. So it was time that I was like, okay, well, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I've got to, you know, forge some sort of career for myself. So I ended up going to school and studying graphic design. I still do that today. Been doing that for 35 years or whatever. So yeah, so I knew that, you know, I had to do something that wasn't going to be quite so demanding of my time. So Paramecium was more of a part-time band. And already had 2 really, really great friends in Paramecium, Andrew and Jayson. Andrew's the vocalist, bass player, and Jayson was the guitarist. Right. And so we're really good mates again. And so it was a natural, you know, Vic Steve Palmer, the original Paramecium drummer, opted to leave, and that sort of left a bit of a slot for me. And the rest is history. So yeah, you know, I think we recorded Exhumed of the Earth in the same year that we recorded Post Momentary, just at opposite ends of the year. So I just wanted to do something that allowed for the band and allowed for my study time as well. And paramedic was a perfect fit.
Nice. No, I remember seeing oh no, you would have been in the band at this point in time. I remember seeing an interview with Steve talking about when Mortification got signed to was it
Nuclear Blast?
Nuclear Blast, yeah. And he was talking about how, you know, all the Satanists were coming out and like threatening the label and threatening the band and death threats and all that. So yeah, but you were in Mortification at that time. But did you know anything about that?
I was more in Mortification at that time.
Oh, you were? Okay.
That was because Scrolls came out on Nuclear Blast. But I think that might have been maybe what happened, because Scrolls was released on both Nuclear Blast and Frontline and on Intense as well.
Right.
But I think what happened was, I think we made the Nuclear Blast connection around 93 for the release of Post Momentary.
Right.
And then Nuclear Blast was like, well, Scrolls is pretty good, so can we release Scrolls as well? So because they're all going into different markets, so obviously Intense and Frontline kind of had that Christian American market sort of down pat, and Nuclear Blast had the secular, the more worldwide kind of distribution, and maybe at the time focusing a bit more on Europe as well. So so Frontline Intense had the US market, and Nuclear Blast had the European market, and probably a bit of a better distribution as well, being a bit more mainstream distribution. But yeah, that's basically what happened there. And the Nuclear Blast connection came because Marcus Steiger is a Christian dude, and I think he might have been a Catholic or something like that. And he was like, "Oh man, Christian death metal band, I've never heard of that before." So I've got to sign him. So that was how we got signed to Nuclear Blast. And then as soon as I think maybe Steve shopped Horde to Marcus as well, and said, "Oh, if you think Christian death metal, why don't you see Christian black metal?" So, well, I personally can't stand to this day the moniker Christian black metal. There is no such thing as Christian black metal. Christian black metal can't exist as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, Christian black metal
can't exist. That every podcast that I've talked about, when they bring up black metal, I'm like, there cannot be Christian black metal. Cannot happen.
There's no such thing. There's no such thing. And
you can't call it un-black metal either.
That's where we differ.
Yeah.
Christian, yes, you can. It can sound like black metal, but it can never feel like black metal, and it can never be black metal. So I took the thing of Dark Throne was a big influence on me in the day for Horde, and their two, especially their two albums, Blaze in the Northern Sky and Under a Funeral Moon. They were pretty big influences on me musically back then.
Great record.
And on the back of, I think it's Under a Funeral Moon, it says, Dark Throne play unholy black metal. And I thought, that sounds cool. I'm going to be unholy unblack metal. So that's where that came from. And then obviously, the Euronymous thing, I wanted to be anonymous. It rhymed with Euronymous. Man, this is gold. So I'm taking that too. So that's kind of how all that happened. So that's how Heligusvat, which is Holy Unblack, came about. It's just a matter of just twisting those things changing those things into a positive faith spiritual theme instead of a satanic theme. So
you find that cheapening the art of what these people created, where you just have the license to say, I like everything you're doing, but just your lyrics, so therefore I'm going to take it upon myself to say I have to change it because it's wrong. I mean,
but why
doesn't that kind of kill the integrity of what that genre is?
Do they own the genre?
Well,
do they own?
Yeah, they do.
Do they own the buzzsaw chainsaw sound? Do they own the every note on the fretboard and
they owned it, but I mean, they cultivated it. I mean, for me, black metal is not only just a sound; it's a place of mind. It's a feeling. It's dark.
I agree.
It's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be holy. It's not supposed to be safe. It was made for ominous evil. If you believe in evil tones and all that stuff. So I don't know. It's like you can have Christian punk rock. You know what I mean? You can have Christian metal. But I think the one thing that needs to, for me, is just black metal is something that was so specific. That I don't know, just the people that are just, like Frost of Ashes, something like that.
Frost like Ashes?
Yeah.
Frost like Ashes?
Yeah, something like that. They want to look like the Corpse Paint and do all this and have the same kind of theatrics and whatnot, but it's like it's not the same when people are creating something that's supposed to be unsettling and anti-Jesus. You know what I mean? So I don't know. For me, and that's just my personal opinion. Everybody know, but I think that's the one musical genre that shouldn't be messed with, by Christians, because I don't ever think it can be what they want it to be.
Oops, too late.
Hey, those things exist. They do. That's my personal opinion. I just find it that I think it cheapens the art. You know what I mean? And I'm not a believer, but I'm also not a Satanist. I don't believe in any of that stuff, but I know that these people, especially, VAR, those guys, I mean, they created a movement and a sound that, and for me, I'm not a huge black metal guy. I like some of it. I like the more, the more melodic kind of, orchestratic, black metal, like Dark Throne, like you were talking about. I can listen to maybe a little bit of early black metal for about 20, 30 minutes. And then I'm good. It's the same way I can listen to, country music. I can listen to some of it for a little bit, and then I've had my fill.
Hey, are you saying Dark Throne's orchestral? No. Dark Throne is primitive, raw.
No, they're
orchestral black.
The ones. Then what am I thinking of? The
probably Dimmer Borgir or Cradle or something.
No, I thought Dark.
Dark Throne is primitive, raw. Disgusting black and roll, black metal, dirty black metal.
It's not Dark Throne then that I was thinking of. I can't remember the band.
Probably Dimmer Borgir you're probably thinking of with all the orchestral parts and stuff.
Yeah, I dig that. But there's another big one.
Cradle Filth.
I like some of Cradle of Filth, but that genre was never my cup of tea. I dig some of it. I'm not a huge black metal guy. I always enjoyed more grindcore and death metal and punk and thrash than I ever did black metal.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's just my personal opinion on that.
Yeah, man. Dude, I respect everyone's opinion.
Yeah. I think black metal is what black metal is. It's supposed to be evil and satanic and scary and whatnot. Well, I mean, at the time, I mean, especially with Mortification doing grindcore and death metal and all that stuff, especially in the mid-90s, what was your whole take on, I know you were talking about, like, you didn't listen to DSI because they're more, satanic lyrics and Morbid Angel and whatnot. But basically, I mean, you had all these people in the 90s saying, because of metal and because of these bands, there was all this, occultist, influence on kids that were driving them to, do murder and mayhem and rituals and abuse and whatnot. What's your take on that, man? Did you buy a lot of that, or were you just kind of skeptical of it?
Are you talking like the Tipper Gore stuff and all that sort of stuff? With,
no, not the PRIC stuff. I'm talking more like, like in the early, the late 80s to like the mid 90s, where the whole, like, people were getting arrested and being accused of satanic rituals and abuse, murders, and all that stuff.
You're talking about the Norwegian black metal scene?
No, I'm talking about what was going on here in America. This was
all no idea.
Oh, really? Yeah, from like 90.
I've got no idea.
Okay, yeah, from like 85 till about 93, or even a little earlier. We had for about a decade and a half, we had what was called the Satanic Panic, where all these people were getting accused of satanic abuse and, ritualistic killing and murdering babies and sacrificing, kids and all this stuff. And, And it comes to find out where, the biggest one would have been the West Memphis Three, if you've ever heard of them. There was those kids from Arkansas back in '93 who there were three, and there's, if you have HBO Max, there's a great documentary. It's about 5 hours, but it's about their life and what happened. And they were, because they were into Wicca and listened to Slayer. These three innocent kids got killed, were murdered, and they blamed it on these kids, saying that, Satan was, the reason they did it. And they saw, Satan, in the forest with these guys. And it came out to be these kids were innocent and spent 20 years in prison over it. And that's just one of the cases where, in America, that shit was prevalent everywhere. The FBI did it came out actually in New York Times of '94. The FBI had investigated over 12,000 occurrences and reports of satanic abuse, and not one was verified. So here in America, we had a lot of crazy Christians seeing a lot of lies on metal bands and kids that listen to metal, that it actually affected people's lives. You had the McBarton preschool in Southern California, where some parent had some weird repressed memory, and next thing you know, these two people are going to prison and spent 18 years in prison for ritualistic abuse that, come to find out, never happened.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was between mid '80s and mid '90s. It probably didn't get really shown here in Australia, that's for sure. So obviously, not having any internet or having any social media or anything like that, pre-internet, there's not going to be a lot of that stuff. So yeah,
unless those people, you know what I mean, that were pushing that kind of stuff. Like when he would have Glenn Benton on, and and like, oh, we got to save our youth from from Satan, and I mean, I think Glenn was definitely more of an occultist, I think, than a true Satanist. But I mean, it was really, really a scary time for people in that era, where they could be accused of things because they to certain kinds of music.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess we live in different times now, but people are probably a little bit more ignorant back then, and probably a little bit more knowledgeable now, and so I can imagine that some conservative parents might have been pretty freaked out, and with their kids listening to bands like Deicide and
well, I mean,
Dissection.
There was a store, we lived in Colorado Springs for a little while, and do you remember Pit Magazine that used to come out back in no? Okay. Pit Magazine used to be just a very small zine, pretty not small, but wasn't like Hit Parade or anything like that. But the store, their main store where you could buy shirts and CDs and records and whatnot, was in the town I was living in at the time. And so my brother just got a driver's license because my mom would never take me there. And at that point in time, like, I still dug Mortification, I still dug Vengeance stuff, but at that time I'd already moved on to listening to Deicide and Bolt Thrower and that genre of stuff. So this place, it was called Mosh Pit Records, and it was maybe the size, maybe a smaller than a one-bedroom apartment, very small store. But my brother and his friend, who were Christians at the time too, we drove to the store, and I walked in, and I'm heaven, because I'm looking at stuff from Europe I hadn't seen, bands I hadn't heard of, but they had a big Once Upon the Cross poster with co-signing with Deicide's release, and my brother and his friend wouldn't come in. They were so terrified that they were going to get possessed just going into the store, just by and we had that a lot in America too, where it was like, don't turn on this CD or don't watch this horror movie or whatnot, because you're actually letting demons into your soul, into your house,
Yeah.
So, as a Christian, you're going to believe, obviously something different than me, but I guess the question is, obviously, if there's a God, there's got to be a devil. There has to be. There can't be one without the other. So what keeps you in line with your faith day to day? What keeps you a Christian, other than saying, for me, when I walked away from it, it wasn't because of being angry with God or just hating God. It was just me saying, I don't see enough evidence for me to believe this any longer. So just move along with my day. So, and that's what my podcast is just, curious about, the Christian bands that I grew up listening to and wanting to be like, I'm a bass player myself, I went and bought, this sounds so cheesy, but my first real bass was a black Kramer because Steve Rowe played a black Kramer, and,
he had a red Kramer.
Yeah, he had a red one, but I got a black one. And I saw it at a pawn shop for like $60. I was like, that's the bass I want to buy, so
yeah.
I'm just curious, what keeps you in the faith day to day?
Oh, but man, how long ago? Where do I start? I guess first and foremost, it's I believe that there is truth, in the Bible, and there's truth. God speaks truth, and well, first of all, I believe that Jesus, came on earth, and he came and was born as a virgin, and was immaculately conceived, and lived as a man for 33 years, before being brutally murdered by Roman soldiers. So, I believe all of that stuff, and I believe that he rose from the dead, and there were 500 witnesses, and, so on and so forth. And, Simon, not you, Simon, is it Simon? Who was it? Thomas stuck his finger in Jesus' side to here I am, there it is, what more do you want? To prove that it was really him, and that he rose from the dead. So that's the first and foremost part of my conviction. But just ever since I became a Christian, there was never, but way back in 1987, there's never been a point where I've felt or believed that God has ever left me or has ever abandoned me. I feel like he's just been with me every single step of the journey. And it's more than just a feeling. Like he day to day. I mean, look. Another thing as well is that you've got to realize, and I'm sure you do realize this, but no one can prove the existence of God, because if they could, there'd be no reason to have faith. So faith is the cornerstone of the Christian belief. Without faith, you need faith. If you have faith, if you have faith, you can see God. So you need faith. Otherwise, it's you might as well just be looking at Jesus face to face, and there's no need for faith. So there has to be that element first and foremost. But so no one can go, there is God, there's proof, end of story, no faith required. That'll never happen until we stand.
But why does there, if God is so powerful and omnipotent and wise and whatnot, why would you play a game with the creation where you could just show up and be like, I'm your father, and have a real personal interaction and real relationship? I'm not saying that people, that have their faith aren't having a relationship, because, see, this is where I respect Christians, and I respect you, and I respect, people's beliefs. So therefore, I try and say what I say carefully without being rude, because I'm not trying to be rude.
Dude, it wouldn't worry me. Being rude doesn't affect me.
No, but I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not going to insult somebody that just we disagree. And because you seem like a really cool guy, and like I said, man, I love your bands. So therefore, I don't want to be a jerk. But it's the secrecy with God, where he could show up and be like, I am your father. I've created you. I've created this. It's always this little secret over here in darkness, or this little tidbit of knowledge over here. Where if I was omnipotent and had a creation, and I'm not even God, but I would show up and say, here I am in the flesh, where we can have a real, true relationship. You don't need faith anymore, because I exist, because I can prove that I exist.
Yeah.
I don't understand the mindset of this being that is so much above everything, that has created everything, that knows everything, that can do anything, that just isn't there.
Well, I mean, you say he isn't there, but I mean, I've seen evidence contrary to that, and I'll get to that. Okay. But I think that there's a time and a place for everything.
I agree.
There's a time in the reap and a time to sow and a time to, all that sort of stuff. And right now at this time, it's not time for God to do that.
But with all
It's
the things that happened in his name, when is it going to shift? When is the time for God to intervene? When is it time for it to say, this is enough? And especially with so many different sects of Christianity, with Baptists, with Lutherans, with Pentecostals, with Assembly of God, everybody has the same kind of recipe for meatloaf, but everybody has their own little spice they're going to throw in there to make it their own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Therefore, what's the real recipe? And if there was a real recipe and I was the chef, I would show up and be like, this is the recipe. Follow the recipe,
But that's everyone. That's just people being people. That's just people throwing in all those different denominations of different people's different opinions, and then they form all of these different, belief systems and sects and whatever and denominations and what have you.
They think they have it right, and you think you have it right. They think they have it right. So who's right? Who's correct?
Yeah.
Who has the divine, one-on-one conversation with God that says, all right, I've been told by God this is the way to live. Boom. I mean, even the Bible has so many different contradictions in it, depending on which book you read. You know what I mean? I mean, from Matthew,
because it was all written by men, dude.
But that's the thing. It's written by men, so therefore men are fallible. So how can that book be 100% the Word of God and 100% divine, and true and accurate?
Inspiration.
What's that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Inspired, yeah.
Yeah, but inspiration for you could be a different inspiration for me, where you want to do the best for humanity, where I'm like, I could use this to control humanity.
Yeah. There was one interesting instance when I was reading the Bible once, which was just, and I can't even explain this. I hope she never listens to this. My previous girlfriend broke up with me, and she sat me on the couch and she gave me all these reasons why we were breaking up. We sat on the couch in my house, and she was like, and she went through the whole list, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. And at the end of the discourse, she was like, did you like hear anything I just said? I'm like, yeah. And you're totally cool. Like, yeah, that's cool. It's kind of run its course. And I was devastated. I was really upset, and then she left, and that was it. And I was pretty upset about it. I didn't want to, particularly show her that I was really upset. And I needed some comfort, I wasn't living with my parents at the time, and I think my dad had already passed away by this stage. No, he hadn't yet. And so my first place to go was to the Bible. And I was feeling terrible. I was feeling awful inside. I felt like absolute garbage. So I picked up my Bible and just started reading. I can't remember the verse. I can't remember what I was reading. That's terrible. I apologize.
No,
but this was like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And I started reading, and something just went, and I felt amazing. And I jumped up from the couch, from the chair, put the Bible on the. Oh, the thing is alive! I can't believe this. I feel completely different. So something happened at that moment, and that's not the only thing that's ever happened. But that was a really, and I can't explain what happened, apart from something divine. Some kind of a divine connection happened in that moment. And I believe that, somehow God chose to reveal a part of himself to me that just has never, ever left me, And I'm not saying that it wasn't like I didn't have a strong faith before that. I have and I do. But just that particular moment was a really defining kind of point in my life. And it was literally, I was probably reading for about a minute or two, and then bang, I felt this thing jumped up, threw the Bible on the table, and just said, man, this thing is alive. It's living. There's something that happened to me. And I just can't explain what it was, but I believe that, yeah, God turned up in that moment, but I've got heaps of different stories, and I'll share a few of them, for you.
Sure.
But I reckon, if you ever want to go back and, go back through all your podcasts, listen, watch Alan's one again, because Alan and Manny as well. Both of those guys had some amazing stories.
They did.
And I think Alan,
I haven't been through circumstances in my life that maybe at the time, if I was a Christian, I would have put that on God. But I've been things in life where miraculous things. And when I say miracles, I mean, in the sense that whatever should have been the end result was not the end result. But I can't say that this was because of Jesus, because of God, because of Krishna, because of this, because I just don't know. And that's my whole thing, is that I don't know. I don't have the proof or the evidence to sustain those thoughts for me where I say yes. And, if I was 15 years old, yes, I definitely would have said it was Jesus. I would have, if I was going through something and something spoke to me, but also we're humans. We have reactions. We have feelings. We have things that, desires. And when we hurt, we look for something that gives us comfort. And if it's the Bible, some people, it could have been, I could have listened to some, old Motown, my girlfriend left me songs and felt better later. You know what I mean? Some people, hit a drink or whatnot, And everybody deals with things differently, but now Manny was a sweet guy. I loved having the conversation, but with Alan, Alan was I'm just gonna say it, man. And I love Alan, and I respect Alan as a person. But there's a lot of things that he claimed in our podcast I don't believe at all. And I think when somebody spouts the kind of things and has the arrogance of the way that he spoke about these things, you better have some heavy ammunition to come with proof. You know what I mean? If he saw some healing in Guatemala when he was living there, that's great. That was 1977. You know what I mean? But when he was telling me the story about he was at some Christian award and healed the guy's foot, but then the other band members didn't believe it, so the foot went back. I was like, what kind of, either that's you're crazy, or you're lying. You know what I mean? And I don't want to be that guy, because I think Alan's a great dude. I think he's smart. I think he's intelligent. I think he's talented. I dig his bit. I think he was a great conversationalist. I had a great time talking to him. But at the end of the day, if I say I can take this pinky and chop it off and regrow it, there better be some proof to come with that.
Yeah. And look, again, dude, it comes back to the faith thing. If you saw a finger grow back, that's proof, and you don't need faith. It's the same as if Jesus materialized in front of you. That's the same level of supernatural occurrence that you wouldn't require faith anymore. You wouldn't need, like the disciples didn't need faith, because they saw Jesus do these things day to day, minute by minute. So anyway, so if you want, like, I could share with you a few stories.
Go for it.
Yeah. So this is a good one, and this is one that I tend to come back to quite often, and that is when Revol recorded the first album, Infernal Atrocity, back in 2015, and it was released in 2015.
That stuff you sent me with Revol is amazing.
Oh, cheers, man.
So yeah, after I totally forgot you were in Paramecium. So after I was like, yeah, and I started re-listening to that on YouTube, and then you sent me those links. All the last 2 days I've been listening to nothing but Revolted. Is it Revolted?
Oh, Revulsed. Yeah.
Like, that is the type of grindy death metal I love. I love that stuff. And
yeah, cool.
Your whole band is fantastic. So I just wanted to give you a little quick shout out to that. That band, if nobody's here has heard the band yet, check them out on YouTube. Buy their stuff. It is fantastic.
Oh, cheers, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. jump on Bandcamp, Revolst at bandcamp.com. Go there. Yeah, cheers. So we recorded another band that I'm pretty closely associated with, but good mates with some of the guys from a band called a German brutal technical death metal band called Defeated Sanity.
Right.
They're probably the biggest brutal technical death metal band going around right now.
Okay.
So I'm good mates with Lilla, the bass player, and the previous vocalist Connie, who actually recorded the first Revolst album with us. So the story, this is kind of the pre-story to the actual story. So the pre-story is, I was a massive fan of Defeated Sanity. Their album Passages into Deformity is an amazing album. I love that album. And Connie did vocals on that album, and I listened to it. So I probably wore out the CD because I've listened to it that much. It's an amazing album. Absolutely brutal, absolutely crushing. And they recorded that back in 2013, I think it was. And I just devoured that album, and Connie was, my favorite vocalist at the time and all the rest of it. And I had a hoodie. I was wearing a Defeated Sanity hoodie in a photo shoot that we did for Revol, that was going to be used for the album. And I used that on my Facebook profile pic. And Connie was my Facebook friend at the time, and he saw the picture and he freaked out. He's like, man, I can't believe, he messaged me and he said, I can't believe you're wearing my band's shirt. I used to listen to you back in the day with Mortification on Headbangers Ball.
Oh yeah.
I used to, I can't even believe you're wearing and I'm like, so I started communicating with him, and I'm like, dude, are you serious? Defeated's probably my favorite band. And so that started this communication between us both, the Mutual Admiration Society, if you will. And he was like, yeah, so what are you doing now? Are you playing any music? What are you doing? Well, I'm in the middle of, we've actually just finished recording an album, kind of in the veins of Suffocation, early Gore Guts kind of stuff, and which was Revulsed. And we've done all the music, done the drums, bass, and guitars. We just need to do vocals. And he's like, I'll do it. And I'm like, my mind was just blown at this point. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. My favorite vocalist wants to record vocals on my album. So that's what happened. So he was like, send me the songs, send me the lyrics. Have you got all the, I've written all the lyrics. I've done all the phrasing of the lyrics. So if you just want to, follow my phrasing, and he was like, yep, absolutely. So he got in his studio, and did that with a good mate of his, Jörg, from what's the name of the studio? Oh, they're going to kill me for not knowing the name, forgetting the name of the studio. It'll come to me. Excuse me. I went over there, went to his wedding, and had a photo taken out the front of the studio. So I should know. It'll come to me. I'm old, but yeah. So he did that. Did all the tracks, sent all the tracks back to me. I was like in tears. I couldn't even believe that this was even real. Laid all the tracks into the songs, and boom, the album was done. Right. So yeah, that was Connie Luring did the vocals on Revulsed, and but because he was all the way in Germany, he wasn't about to come to Australia to join the band with us, Yeah. So unfortunately, he was never going to be a permanent member. That was only, like a temporary sort of solution. And but we're absolutely honoured and blown away that he would even consider doing it. So that was an amazing experience for us to do that with him. But so we needed to find a permanent vocalist, and a local vocalist who lived in Melbourne, preferably, so we could do shows and whatever. So for the first 2 or 3, well, actually, it would have been probably a couple of years after we finished doing Infernal. I was in every newspaper, every online forum, trying to find a vocalist for the band, just working hard, doing everything, just getting in there and, checking all the ads out and auditioning this person, auditioning that person. It would have taken about maybe 18 months, 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And nothing, absolutely nothing. Just nothing at all. The few people that we did audition just didn't work out. They did a great job, but it just didn't work out. It was either personally or just, they just weren't quite what we're after. But, so that was it. And I was just exhausted at that point. I was like, man, I'm just stuffed. I can't keep doing this. I need to take a break from this. This is just, I'm just emotionally drained and I just can't do this anymore. It was doing my head in, just not getting anywhere, banging on brick walls, bashing my head against a brick wall. So I'm like, okay, I'm basically, the old adage, I was doing everything in my own strength. I'm just doing it all myself. So I came to a point where I'm like, Lord, I've got to wash my hands of this. I can't do this anymore. This is crazy. I'm exhausted. Please, Lord Jesus, you do whatever you want. You do what you want with this. I'm done. I just took a deep breath and that was it. I just gave it to him, just gave it to the Lord. My hair was getting a bit shaggy. I went to bed that night, woke up the next morning and thought, I'm going to go and get a haircut. So I went down to the local hairdresser and got an appointment done and sat down and started to get my hair done. And there was this girl cutting my hair, and she kind of had, different colored hair and looked a little bit alternativo, a bit emo or whatever. Yeah. And Georgia will kill me for saying this now, but so she was cutting my hair, and we got chatting, and and she was like, what's so you come in here getting a haircut, what do you do? What do you do? Oh, I do this and this and that. And, what do you, I play in a band. And, you're playing a band? Yeah, I play in a band. What sort of music? You probably, you probably know it's called death metal. Oh, death metal? Oh, that's weird. My husband likes death metal. I'm like, okay. That's interesting. Your husband likes death metal. Yeah. He's listened to death metal for ages. Yeah, he's a vocalist. What did you say? He's a vocalist. Yeah. He's just quit. He's just quit his band, and he's looking for a new vocalist, and he's looking for a new band rather, and he just lives up the road, just 5 minutes away from here. So and I'm like, what? You live 5 minutes from me? Oh, well, you live like, yeah, well, I live locally as well, so I live kind of in the same area. And I'm like, okay, so your husband is a death metal guy, he's a vocalist, and he lives locally too. Yeah. I'll swap numbers at the end of it. So, end of story. He's been my best friend now since then, since 2016. Right. He's just, I literally have Facebook messages from him that I still haven't read that are sitting on my phone, notifications. And he's still in the band with me, and he recorded Cerebral Contamination. And the crazy thing is, the even crazier thing is that a week before I went to get my hair cut, he found Revol on Bandcamp. Wow. And then bookmarked it, and then came back and bought the album, the first album that Connie was on. Right. And that was it. And so we met up. We got on like a house on fire, connected instantly. He ended up being perfect for the band, was exactly the fit we needed, down to earth, easy to get along with. Nice. Mega talented. If you've listened to Cerebral Contamination, you'll know how good he is. And all of that came from me going, Lord, I'm done. I can't do it anymore in my strength. You do what you want to do. I'm done. And then, bang, it all happened. Now, people will say, that's a coincidence, man. That's a coincidence. If that's a coincidence, that has got to be the most specific, insane coincidence I have ever heard of. A coincidence would have been, I was still looking for someone, and I was still doing all that stuff. I went to have a haircut. I met someone who knew someone who knew someone who was into death metal.
Yeah.
That's it. And then that was it. Then nothing else happened. That would have been a coincidence.
Sure.
But no one can, no one can convince me that story is a coincidence, because
Sure.
that is too up to be.
I hear you. And that's an
So,
amazing story. It is,
and I got more, and there's more, but that's the one that I really, that's an insane one.
But for me, that's maybe the universe is, maybe it's not so much a deity other than the universe is when you finally, give up saying like, I can't do it by myself. I need help of some sort. The universe puts it out to you. That's, or whether you call it, God or karma or whatever you want to call it, for me, I mean, I've had many situations where it's like, working hard, I mean, I'll tell you a little quick story. I was in an Irish punk band called Brass Knuckle Choir. We sounded like Dropkick and Dropkick Murphys. Not familiar?
Don't know him. No.
Punk band with bagpipes.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, I've never heard of them.
Yeah. And I started the band in 2000 and we broke up. I think I'm the only person in a band that's ever had their CD release show be their last show.
Yeah.
And it was at that point too, where, I was basically doing all the work. I paid for everything. I got the CD pressed, mastered, and it turned out to be just the biggest hunk of junk CD. And the guy that mixed it just did not know what he was doing, especially with bagpipes. I mean, you know how bagpipes sound. They either sound amazing or it sounds like people are dying, It
sounds good on a long way to the top. That's a good example.
Exactly. Yeah.
How bagpipes should sound.
Yeah. So, and it was that situation where, I'm at the same thing where I was just in my head going, all right, tonight I just have to be done, but I don't want to stop playing music. I want to keep playing, but I don't want to be in charge anymore. I don't want to have to find the people or find the practice space or make sure everybody gives me their money for the rent for it, or, because I had a Suburban at the time. So I was always the guy picking up everybody's gear, driving it. I did everything. I did the merch. I did it all by myself. And, and so that night, the show went horrible. And I was like, I just can't do this band anymore. Cause I mean, it's really, I don't even like the guys I'm with, except for the bagpipe player. I was like, I don't even want to be around my band. We've all kind of just been different people. And so the next night we all had a band meeting and, told them the band's done, it's happening, and 2 nights later, a band from where I lived was a hardcore band that I really dug watching, very, very New York style hardcore, agnostic front kind of stuff. They called me and they were like, hey, hey, our bass player is leaving in a month because he's going to the military. Do you want to come play? And I'm like, yes, please. And then, started playing in that band. That led to a different band before I just, kind of retired from playing. But again, I mean, I wasn't playing for it. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just done. And it just seems like whenever you're just able to just let go of rage or hate or control or money or anything, it's just, all right, man, I just want to be at peace and have a good time doing what, and I don't mind hard work. Hard work is good, but it was like, boom. And so then I joined that band and was with them for 4 years. And we had some of the best shows ever because I was no longer burdened with every detail. It was a true band effort where, if my guitar player needed something and I helped, vice versa. It truly was a united front. So it was nice. But I get it. Everybody looks at signs in a different way, and I believe the universe gives you what you need when you need it, and if you don't need it, it's not going to be given to you.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't looking for signs. I'd already had a relationship with the Lord, and I just said, you just do what you want to do, and He did what He wanted to do, man, and the rest is history. So
I
It's
can't,
crazy.
I can't not validate your story because it's your story. It's
Of
not mine.
course, of course,
Yeah.
of course, yeah. But I'm just trying to give you, like a lot of people, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people might be Christians and nothing particularly has ever happened to them to validate their faith. I don't know. It might be just completely internal and they're happy with that. But I can't help it when things happen to me,
Yeah.
and I have no other explanation but to say that, you know, I believe that God absolutely had a hand uh, in all of these amazing things. I'll give you another. I'll give you another story. This involves my wife. So we were at church. This was a fair while ago. My wife's a singer and she's a worship leader as well, and pianist and all round amazing musician.
Oh, a
And
singer and a pianist. Okay, I'm sorry. You were cutting out for a second.
yeah, so she's actually a singing teacher, my wife, but she was a worship leader at our old church.
Right.
And she was up on stage once and just worship leading away, and see the congregation out in front of her, and then all of a sudden, while she's on the stage worship leading, to her right, there was a white cloaked figure glowing, and it wasn't a person, it wasn't anyone on the stage or anything like that, and she looked over, and she perceived what she perceived to be Jesus standing there on the stage in, how we would perceive Jesus to look, the traditional sort of perception of what Jesus would sort of look like, what we're used to seeing Jesus to look
So
like.
we're talking about looking like
So
the long hair, blue eye Jesus, the
yeah, he actually might have, I think his face might have been like that full glowing sun kind of
okay.
face, I think. So his face might have even been like kind of hidden by that sort of glow. Anyway, it was only like 3 seconds, but she looked across, 1, 2, 3. Oh my gosh, what just happened? And then went back to, and she was just obviously overwhelmed by that. But she kept her calm, she kept her cool, and she kept worshipping, and that was kind of it. Then she came home that day. I wasn't there that particular day. She came home that morning and she told me all about it. Now, my wife is a very, very private person. She has no Facebook account. She's very, very private, and she tells no one about that except for me, just me. She didn't even tell her closest friends, didn't tell anyone, just me. And I'm freaking out, going, that's whoa, absolutely freaking out. Anyway, that was kind of the end of that, although we were riding a bit of a high for the next 3 or 4 weeks, because of that occurrence. 3 weeks later, when she was up on, no, not when she was up on stage, 3 weeks later, I think she had that morning off, and a lady from the congregation, one lady came up to her after the service 3 weeks later, because I think we visited another couple of churches or something, and we didn't actually get back there until 3 weeks after that. So 3 weeks later, this lady came up to her after the service and said, I don't want to freak you out. This is going to sound really weird, but just hear me out. 3 weeks ago, when you were standing on the stage worship leading, I saw a glowing figure who looked like Jesus standing to your right. She told no one else, only told me. I don't even know this other person, so I wouldn't have spoken to her. There is no way that there's no way that this person could have seen that figure unless it was real. So that's another story. And I've got more, but I won't go on and on and on about it. But that's another one that just blows my mind.
Well, what if it's aliens? What if it's a different being from a trans, a time split? You know what I mean? there's so many things that could be or could not be. So therefore, and like I said, I'm not diminishing or bad mouthing your lady's experience. I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, know that, and I am not saying this in jest and making fun. I hope you understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. You've got to try and make sense of it from your standpoint, and that's
but I mean
completely
also,
admirable.
yeah. Like I said, I just try to be respectful, but also just in my mind, I'm like, when I've talked to, I listen to scientists and whatnot, like, time splits and transportals and whatnot. It's like, why is that any crazier than a deity that created everything and knows everything? In my mind, that could be just as plausible and likely as the other stories, where there's somehow we have interdimensions and people coming and through and back and I mean, again, can it be proven? No, but I don't know that. So therefore, I just try and think of what I think would make sense for me, and it's but also that's the thing that just kind of just makes me go, like, if that was Jesus, why didn't he just show up and talk and say, I love all of you children, be my, it was going back to kind of like the Allen thing with the faith healing and whatnot. And, and I want to say thank you so much for your email when Roger passed. I had no idea you watched the show or anything. I was like, and I was freaking out for days. I was like, oh man, I was telling my wife, I'm like, Jayson Sherlock from Mortification emailed me. This is great. If God really wanted to like really, because Roger, Roger, when he was a Christian, he was on fire. That dude could speak and he could bring people in, If God really wanted to do something tremendous with Roger, man, if he could have revealed himself, healed Roger, and I guarantee you, me and Roger would be having me and Roger would have had much different conversations. The show would have been completely different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And instead of just, oh, you have a bunch of this, or this person was healed, or this person was that. The revelation is, for me, going to would be the smartest, and I'm not a deity, would be the smartest thing any deity would do, would be the revelation. I said this to a guy I was talking to, if Jesus is Jesus and the church is the body of Christ, the body of Christ is diseased right now. It's completely diseased from what Jesus really is. And there needs to be amputations.
Absolutely.
And get rid of
completely, totally, man. Yeah.
But that's the thing. If you and I together ran a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and I'm CEO, you're managerial, and you're doing stuff that's hurting my brand's name, that's unethical and moral, whatnot, I'm gonna push you to the side, and I'm gonna reveal myself as the CEO, the man in charge, and say, hey, I'm sorry for what this guy's been doing, but now you're talking to the boss, and I'm gonna fix this. So the hide and seek, even if God is real, it infuriates me because he could fix things so quick. And I know everyone says you can't, make God do whatever. Of course not. I couldn't make a God do anything. I can't make my cats do anything. You know what I mean? But it's just that, why the secrecy? Why the years of suffering for people? Why do we have this and this and this? Honestly, when I first really started delving into atheism was in about 9th grade, and we did a long history study of World War II, and especially about the concentration camps. And this survivor came in from the concentration camp and was talking to us, and we were watching this video, and he showed us something that to this day impacts me. It's in one of the bunks. It's where this Jewish gentleman had died. And basically, he had carved in the wall, and this is God's chosen people, that if God is real, he should get on his knees and beg our forgiveness. And this is a Jewish man of God's chosen people saying this. Like, why would you let your people... do you have any kids? Do you have children?
Sure. Yeah.
I would never put my children through that for anything. You know what I mean?
Cool.
So even when I discuss the existence of God, okay, even if he exists, let's challenge the morality or the ethics of God, because I don't believe God is an ethical being if he exists.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's a heavy thing. It's a heavy way to go. But it's like, man, like, why would you let all this perverse, evil things happen in your name when you can just stop it? We don't have to be in damnation. We don't have to go to hell. You can love us and forgive us and take us into your bosom. There's nothing my daughter could do that I wouldn't love her. I would never even, like, she might need, I'm not saying discipline isn't needed or, retribution or whatnot, but, I would never throw my daughter to eternity of torment and fire and hate and whatever else that he has in store for us because she didn't abide by me or believe in the way I believe. It's to me, it's insanity.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I mean, I believe that, hell wasn't created for people. It was hell, because the Bible says, the hell was prepared for the devil and his angels. Yeah. So I've got no preconceived ideas as to, the amount of humanity that will end up in hell, because I that's not for me to even, put a count on. I wouldn't know if Adolf Hitler's going to go to hell. I do not know that information. And it's irrelevant to me. It's irrelevant to my faith. It's irrelevant to my relationship with him and to my journey, So
that may not be believers, where just because I'm not accepting his teachings or his word, that I'm, and in the lifespan of humans, man, we are a blink in the eye. We're an answer to everything.
Yeah.
So
and that's another thing that I try and think about. And that's not to make an excuse for anything. It's just, I'm just, trying to put things into perspective. And that is, obviously, because we're limited by this physical body and by time, it's impossible for us to put our minds and our experiences into what eternity would feel like or is, kind of thing. Yeah. And so I think to myself, the only consolation, that I could perceive for that poor man in that cell, carving those words into that wall, is that, he absolutely will not be going to hell, and he will absolutely be. He will be in the arms of his Savior right now, and even though at the time, obviously, that felt to him like an eternity, and for those people like an eternity, in context, that suffering, as excruciating and unbearable as it would have been, and I will never understand what that was like. Yeah. Never.
Yeah.
I take comfort in knowing that, in the context of life on Earth, and comparing that to life in life outside of the confines of Earth, or this fleshly vessel, that life on Earth will feel like that by comparison. So that's what I take comfort in, even though at the time it was excruciating for those people. By comparison, compared to eternity in glory, I would feel they would not even know it ever existed. So I take comfort from that, and obviously I have no explanation as to what I mean, apart from, the fallen man story and all that sort of stuff. I certainly believe that every situation can be redeemed, and those 6 million beautiful Jewish people who suffered those atrocities are absolutely being rewarded right now in the arms of their God. So that's my perception.
Well, let me ask this then. What about the other 4 to 6 million that were either gypsies or homosexuals?
Oh, well, dude, I put those in as well. Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
I include, dude. I'm not overly, educated in the Holocaust and all the intricacies and the details.
I'm not a theologian. But
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
yeah.
there
So
were, there were
that's
very many other
that's the
people
only thing I can
Jewish
take away
folks
from
that,
that.
especially, homosexuals and blacks and cripple, I, I don't say cripples in that way, but like people that had, Down syndrome and people that weren't, 100% physically able and whatnot. I mean, there were, 6 million Jews, and that's not deniable, but there was also millions more that were not Jewish that were preyed upon as well for the mass
Yeah.
grave, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I've always said this, the one thing I dislike more than religion is Nazis, man. I don't like religion, so I can tell you how much I think about Nazis. you know,
Yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing too. Like, I'm not religious. I
true.
don't like religion. I can't stand religion. As far as I'm concerned, religion is man trying to reach up to God.
Yeah.
But in from my perception and from my reality, uh, my relationship with Jesus is the opposite. It's God reaching down to man. And as far as I'm aware, am I correct to assume that that's the only belief in which that takes place, or is I can't think of any other faith that is God is the deity is reaching down
No, Odin.
to
There's a lot of that
man.
in Viking with Odin coming to take care of his people with Thor. In Norse philosophy, there's a lot of that. Um, in Hinduism, there's Shiva or Shiva, which is the male or female, uh, bodily era of that, where one is of peace, one is of love. Um,
Yeah,
Similar, but I mean that's the thing. They're all coming from a Bronze Age belief system, and I think there's. I'm not saying there's not beauty in Christianity. There's stories that I've read that I'm like, man, that is a beautiful story, and there's
yeah,
stories I've read in Hinduism, like, man, that's, and there's things I've read in Buddhism that I don't like, and
yeah,
vice versa. I don't think anybody throughout the short span of what we call humanity and this earth, man, nobody has it right.
yeah,
I don't, and I'm not saying that I don't believe in things. So I do believe in things. I do believe in,
yeah,
they're just a different belief system.
yeah. So
Okay,
I'm just writing my
your
I'm
video.
just writing my wife a message. I'm just writing my wife a quick message letting her
Oh
know
no,
how
go
long
ahead.
I've been.
Yeah, I won't keep you too much longer. I'll keep you like 10 minutes, and I'll let you go so you enjoy your Sunday morning with your family.
Oh, good man.
But
All
yeah, I
good.
mean, there's many things I believe in. I believe in the strength of humanity. I believe that people can
Yeah,
some of the most worst things and bind together and fight tyranny and evil and horrific
yeah,
things and actually do good in this world. I just think
yeah, yeah,
it's harder and
yeah,
harder because we all have a division of, well, you don't believe this, or you don't think this way, or you're not in this political party that I believe in, or you're not my home association or whatnot. I think we're all people driving on. We're all on the same planet, man. We got to all work
yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah. So you were talking a bit before about um uh your so why so when did you discover that following Jesus was no longer for you? What year?
I would have been when I first started having questions. I would have been about 14, and
Yeah,
we drove down. My mom was a big Assembly of God lady, and we watched, Benny Hinn and Pat Robertson and Oral Roberts and Jack Dewey Swaggart and all these people, and they always just something always felt wrong with these people, something. And when I was 14, 13, 14, 13 or 14, we drove down to Anaheim to see Benny Hinn in person, and the spectacle, the show, the falseness. I could at 14 I could see through it. I remember driving home from Anaheim with my mom and dad, and I'm like, which is about an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half away. And I'm like,
yeah,
there's really sick people there in the front row that weren't being used as a prop or as a selling tool for money. I'm like, why didn't God?
yeah,
And and I don't think my parents were ready for questions that I had. You know, I don't think they were one. I don't think the church gave them significant kind of ammo to fight what I was shooting at them. You know, as a church, was just, you know, this is this, faith is this, believe this, you know. And my mom was like, "Well, it's God's will." I'm like, "Well, why isn't God's will to fix these people? These people are there sick and hurting, and they need something. They're looking for that miracle. They're begging for it. They're praying for it. They're giving their tithes to the church." And all my mom could say was, "Well, it's just God's will," which I think is the fucking most stupidest argument anybody can say. It's God's will. No, you don't know God's will.
Well, it sounds like a cop out, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a complete cop out. And then when I was 15, I mean, people freaked out, but I was definitely interested in Satanism because I had a friend that was turned into Satanism, and not Satanism like with the masses and the ritual, but he handed me, you know. So I went to our local library and read the book, the book of Satan. And honestly, the humanistic parts of what Anton LaVey wrote made more sense to me than what the Ten Commandments and what the Bible said. You know, one of the big tendencies of Satanism is do no harm, you know, where there were many, you know, the first 3 to 4, you know, tenets of the Ten Commandments is about God. It's very, for me, it was very narcissistic and very jealous. And so, but I was always afraid of that stuff because I was brought up to be afraid of that stuff. You know, be careful of this, be careful of that. And I mean, even when Christian metal came out, my mom would scrutinize the like I remember one time she took away all my Christian tapes because she didn't believe they were Christian enough. And I'm like,
yeah,
how else can anyone shoot? And unless you know what you're talking about and delve into it, you can't make that informed decision. And so as I got older, I definitely was playing balancing act just because I was still afraid of damnation and hell, but also I didn't believe. I was doing it just because I was scared of going to hell. I wasn't doing it to really love God or love church or love those people. I just didn't want to go to hell. So I was probably like 23. The last, I remember I was 20, 21, and my mom and my dad had separated, and I was living in California, and my mom came to live with me because they'd separated, and she was going to this church, and I went with her, you know, just because I love my mom and I wanted to go with her. And they were doing this Benny Hinn, like, you know, when the spirit, everybody's falling over, you know, freaking out and all that kind of stuff. And I remember being with my mom in the front row with some of her Christian friends, and the guy whoosh, you know, and the spirit, and they all fall over, and I'm the only one standing, and I'm like, what the kind of happy horse shit is this? This is fake. You know what I mean? Like, you people are playing a role to seem heavenly. You know what I mean? I even said it on my show. Like I remember telling my mom I learned how to speak in tongues when I was 12. I didn't believe in that. I was mimicking what I saw religious people that were supposed to be righteous people doing. I didn't know any better. I wanted to be righteous. I wanted to be looked on with favor of the pastor. Like, you're so holy, so spiritual, you know? But by the time I was done. Church had nothing to do. I had nothing to bring me anymore. And I started looking into, you know, Hinduism and a little bit of Buddhism. And honestly, like, I'm not a Satanist. I was a member of the Church of Satan for a while just because I thought it'd be funny, you know? And if anybody's, you know, watching this in Australia, the Church of Satan is an atheistic organization. They don't believe in a real devil. They never have. Anton LaVey was a very shrewd carny, you know, if that's the best way, showman. He didn't believe in the devil either. They were basically atheists. So, I mean, for me, it's like, you know, I don't turn the other cheek because I don't love my neighbor. You know what I mean? You come at me, I'm going to destroy you. You know, I'm going to protect what's mine. I'm not a might makes right kind of guy, but I also believe that sometimes you have to defend what's yours and have to stand up for what's yours, you know?
Yeah.
So
did you meet Dr. LaVey, or was he?
No, I never got to meet. I never got to meet Mr. LaVey. But I have a good friend that lives here in Kansas City who I actually have met, Xena and Nicholas Shrek, his kids. You know.
Oh yeah.
And again, they're just taking on their father's mantle. You know, I mean, they're doing the same. This was, and well, I'm going to say years ago. I don't know what they're doing now because, like I said, why am I going to support, you know,
I
this?
don't think she is. I don't think she is anymore. I think she. Yeah, I don't think she does that anymore.
Yeah, she does Temple of Set, which is something completely
I
different,
think.
which I don't know
I
much
thought she
about.
completely. I thought she completely gave it away.
Oh, did she?
The whole thing.
I heard
I
her,
think so.
yeah, they were doing Temple of Set, which, you know,
Yeah, that was ages ago. Now, I think
yeah.
they're both giving it away.
No, well, for me, like if I'm going to give money to, you know, I'm going to give it to my local, you know, kids hospital, or I'm going to do something,
Dude, do it.
cool,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. Give it to a homeless shelter,
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you know,
Because that's what Jesus would have done.
yeah, you know, I mean, that's the thing. I have a church that when I moved in my house 14 years ago was this big, and now it's a mega church right across the
Yeah.
street from my house. I'm like, do you know
Yeah.
how many families that could have helped? How many?
Well, Jesus is good. Jesus would, if he was physically, he'd be giving it to homeless shelters and children's hospitals and places like that.
Yeah, and that was my statement earlier was that, like, you know, the body of Christ right now, which is supposed to be the church, it's full of disease. It is full of
Totally, absolutely,
you
100%,
know,
100%, 100%.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
it needs to
Hey,
be,
I want to ask you a question as well.
yeah.
How far did you get into the writing of the Fifth Vengeance Rising album with Roger?
Okay, Roger. The problem was me and my guitar player, who ironically was one of my guitar that the other hardcore band that I got with.
Good.
I brought him
Yeah.
when I did my final band. We were a kind of a beat down hardcore band, like Nails, kind of, but a little bit more hardcore. Um,
Yeah.
so I brought him on, and then we had, I don't know how Roger found it, but we were going to work with this dude named Chad from this metal band called Himza, which I wasn't familiar with until I heard his music, and I was like, this guy's great. So I went out and like I hadn't played in a few years, so I went out and I bought a computer and recording stuff, and we set up a little thing in my basement, and we were going to record bass and guitars, and then
Yeah.
send to Chad to do drums, and he would send it to Roger. Well, at this point in time, Roger hadn't really listened to metal in like 30 years. So
Oh, really?
yeah, I mean, he never kept up with it. He became a real estate agent afterwards, you know? So he was doing
Yeah.
real
So
estate. Yeah,
changing careers makes you not listen to metal anymore?
yeah, he didn't know current metal. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not talking bad about Roger because I love him, man. He was good. Like the last 5 years, he was one of my best friends. We talked almost every day, you know, texts, fun stuff, you know. Um, but I would send him new metal bands or even like old stuff. Like I sent him like Napalm's like seventh record, which I think was like Twist the Knife Slowly, that came out like in 95, 96. And he had never heard it. And so he really got into a weird rabbit hole of metal. And he emailed me and be like, this is what we should sound like. And I'm like, cool, I can play that. I'm down with that. Then he'd send me other stuff and say, we should sound like this. I'm like, if you want technical, that's not me, man. I'm an aggressive, fast, more grindcore kind of player with the punk aspect to it. I'm like, if you want super technical, me and my guitar player are not the guys for you. And
Yeah.
so we recorded a couple things and sent it to him. And he was like, I don't like it. I'm going to pick up my guitar and write, and I'll send it back to you. And it just came to a point where obviously he was too sick, and he wanted to do it, but he just didn't have the will to do it. So it was just one of those things where it sucks because there were so many people that were bagging on him. Like, and I get it, man. He talked about, put something out for 30 years and it never came out. I was excited. I was a huge Vengeance fan. I went and saw Roger preach at Sanctuary. I mean, I was super excited. Like, man, I'm going to be a part of Vengeance Rising, whether it's Christian or not. Like this is going to be great. And it sucked that it didn't get to come to fruition. But I mean, Roger was just every time he got a little bit better, something happened, and and I knew something was wrong the last week because I had heard from him in a day or so, and so I texted him, and he didn't get back with me, and I'd been busy at work, so I didn't get back with him. And the next day, I texted him, and I didn't hear back, and I knew something was wrong. So then that morning, his lady had messaged me, and the first day I texted him, he wasn't feeling well, went to the doctors. They put him in hospice that night. And I guess he just stopped eating and 2 days later was gone.
I mean, I obviously had completely lost contact with him, and the last, you know, the last thing that I'd heard about him was that he was doing the real estate thing,
Yeah.
So I didn't even know he was sick.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm seeing all these Facebook messages. Roger Martinez has passed away. I'm like, huh? What happened? What the? So that was completely out of the blue for me. I had absolutely no idea. And then I somehow got wind of your podcast, this one, and then it's like Roger's given out his phone number, and I'm like, oh my God, and he's gone, and I'm like, oh, if only I'd somehow got his number before. It's like, what the hell,
Yeah.
So I was devastated to hear that he already passed away. What's that?
He would have liked it. I mean, there's all the mean comments where, I don't know how many people contacted Roger realistically, because that wasn't my thing. It wasn't my email or his, or, my number. So, but there was just mean comments of people like, well, nobody's reached out because nobody gives a shit. I'm like, dude, there's a lot of people that still care about Roger. It might not be the way that you care about Roger, but
I'm sure he would have picked up if he knew that I was trying to contact him.
Totally.
I'm sure he would have remembered me. I would have thought he would have remembered me.
Oh, he spoke very highly in private of Mortification, except for Steve. And I'm not going to go into that. I don't care. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, he didn't like Steve very well. But he thought you and Michael were just super good dudes and talented. And he even said at one time, he's like, I wish I would have had those guys in Vengeance. We could have been harder than we were. I'm like, that's true, dude. Like, those guys were badass guys, But no, he was, and that's the thing, is like, everybody wanted to put Roger in this cage of this is what he is at this time, or this is what he became. And he was so much more than that, And I'm not saying that Roger wasn't abrasive at times, especially on my show. I was too, But also, people have to remember, Roger was one of the most energetic showmen of all time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whether it was preaching or on stage, the man knew how to captivate a crowd. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
And just at this point in time, I mean, like I said, when we did the remembrance thing, like when I first reached out to Roger, because I had this idea I actually wanted to make a documentary, and that didn't work out. So I was like, well, we'll just do Zoom and start doing this show. But, it took me 6 months of talking to Roger before he trusted me, because he just didn't want just some Bible thumping stuff happening. He was like, and it was a good 6 months of, oh man, I have them all saved in a folder, man. I have probably 2,000, emails from Roger, because I'd wake up and there'd be 16 messages or 16 emails like, check out this band. Oh man, check what's going on. Do you watch sports? Do you like this? Just because he was.
He never switched off.
Yeah, but he was what whatever people want to think of him, man. He was my buddy. Yeah. I miss him, and I wish I could have talked to him at least one last time. I mean,
basically, if it jams, it jams.
If it jams, it jams. For his birthday one year, I made Roger into a Funko Pop.
Yeah, really.
And I sent it to him, and so he was, I love it, man. He's like, send me one of you. So I made myself one, and sent it to him for his birthday, or just for fun. But it was kind enough. His girlfriend was like, hey, do you want these? I'm like, yes, I want those. Like, don't give them away. Don't throw them away. So they just showed up at the mailbox yesterday. So I'm like,
oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So again, if anybody's listening to this, I have it on the information for the remembrance of Roger. His girlfriend, was taking care of Roger the last, 20 years, especially the last 4 years with him sick. So if anybody can, the email's on there, reach out to Adele Meisenheimer, make sure that she gets the royalties so that she can at least, pay for the estate and pay for all the good stuff and all the years that she's put into Roger. So if anybody deserves the money, it's not Adele. She's made a lot of money off them. Let's give it to her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good call, man.
Yeah, if your wife passed or if you passed, I want to make sure that whatever royalties you got went to her, because that's who you would want it to go to.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Even at one time, Roger was like, "I'm going to put you in the will, and you're going to get all my royalties." And I think that's what Roger trusted me. I was like, "Dude, I don't want your royalties. I'm not after that. Like, do not do. I do not want them. I just want to get to know you and be your friend and have you on a talk show." And then we became friends. So I mean, this is the coolest part of it. Other than the debate, is I am now at almost 50 years old. If 14-year-old Simon could know right now who he's been talking to, like, I'm super good friends with Jimmy Brown from Deliverance, and he says hello, by the way. Every time I go to Vegas, me and Jimmy and my wife go out and have drinks and food. Reconnected with George Ochoa, my good friend Carl from Everyday Life. I went to junior high with my buddy Chad from the punk band Officer Negative in Ventura. You know what I mean? So the coolest thing is I'm getting to talk to people that, one, I not only admired them musically, but also, Christian or not, you guys had a big influence on who I was from the ages of 13 to 18,
Yeah, cheers, man. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I'll always, when I'm talking to death metal with friends of mine, I'm like, "You heard about Mortification?" They're like, "Well, they're Christian, right?" I'm like, "Doesn't fucking matter if they're Christian. They're awesome." For me, Scrolls was the right place, right time, right records for me. Love it from start to finish.
Oh, cheers, man. Cheers. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna let you, my friend. Yeah, I've got we've almost doing this 2 hours, and I've got some stuff to do before I go to bed because I'm tired. I've had a long day at work. So.
Oh, good, man. No, it's gone quick. It went really, really quick. So I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, man. Thank you for reaching out, man. And it was a fun conversation. And
awesome, dude.
Whether you believe or not believe, man, it was awesome. And like I said, thank you for showing me your other bands, because I had no idea. Not being shitty, but I just don't listen to Christian music at all. You know what I mean? I haven't for years.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, look, I honestly, there was only a very, very small handful of Christian bands that I was into. I mean, I really liked Striper, Tourniquet, Tourniquet, Believer, and that was kind of it. Everything else, I was never I'm only going to listen to Christian music, because
totally.
For me, that would have just been, killing myself and killing my creativity. There was so much more of a world of music out there. I mean, look, I grew up on mainstream pop, so I'm a massive Rush fan as well, and I'm mega jealous that you got to see Rush. Rush never came to Australia, so I'm spewing about that. But massive Rush head too.
Yeah, my buddy Bruiser would have forced me to go to that show, because like I said, growing up, we had the oldies and the classic rock, and I didn't want to hear that. I wanted to hear Suicidal. I wanted to hear Slayer. And so, dude, he just pounded Rush in my head for years. Finally, when they came through, he bought me a ticket, and I'm so glad I went, because I was like, I finally seen them live. I got it. I was like, holy shit! Like, I'd never. The only two bands I've seen that come close to that was I got to see Ghost open up for Iron Maiden about 4 years ago, and both those bands, one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, well.
Oh, they were fantastic. A quick thing about what you're saying about the other bands. I think Believer could have been such a better contender in the market if they had a better name. I think Believer hindered them for what they were.
Yeah.
I mean, Something Obscure, Extraction from Reality, and even Dimensions, a little too technical for my taste, but still very good. But one they got, what was the one with the white Abigail, or the weird kind of AI looking one?
Yeah.
That got a little bit too, it was just too much for me. I wasn't into that one.
Yeah, I can't remember. That was relatively recent. That was like in the last 10 or so, 10, maybe 15. I can't remember.
Fantastic. But I always just was like, if they would have had a different name, I think they could have gotten a little bit more acceptability, or something. I'm sorry. I mean, I love the band, but it was a dumb name. It was a dumb
name. Yeah. Well, good, man.
Well, thank you, sir. Right. Appreciate you.
No worries.
If you do talk to Steve and you want to throw in my email, if he ever wants to be a guest, I would love to talk to Steve as well, or Michael as well.
Yeah, no worries, man. I don't think he's so much. He's more like an old school phone call kind of guy, and I haven't spoke to him on the phone for a while. We've usually got to keep it pretty short, but yeah, I'm not sure whether he's actually on email. But if I ever chat to him, I'll definitely mention you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Jayson, thank you for your time, man. Have a good Sunday, buddy.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Cheers.
See you, man. Bye-bye. Bye.